Hey, Shalom, Sister Kate here. I want to give a shout out this afternoon to Brother Travis at Set Apart Homestead. He reached 50,000 subscribers. Great job. He puts out a lot of content. I'm sure he spends, hours a day perusing news and etc. and then thinking about what he wants to say and then putting out videos. So, congratulations to you and job well done. And also, congratulations to all the preppers who are subscribing to these prepping channels and giving these brethren in the prepping movement and also in the believer movement the support. It's going to help him. It's going to increase the amount of ad money he gets. It's going to help you because he's putting out information. He's also really good at organizing meetings and having people come speak on prepping kind of subjects and all that's great. All that improves the body. And so, kudos to him and thank you to all you who are subscribe to prepping channels and regularly comment and subscribe and so on because you're helping the overall prepping community grow. I haven't done a lot of videos lately because as a prepper, I'm and an off-grider, I'm still busy. Lots of stuff going on here on Shofar Mountain. But I had to get online today because of that incident in Philadelphia. I think it's definitely in Pennsylvania on the train where a woman was raped and there were people on the train and no one stopped the crime from happening, and none of the riders called for help. The person who ended up calling for help for this poor woman was a train employee. I don't know how she saw, I don't know if she was, checking a security camera or if she physically walked around the cars or what, but she's the one who called 911. And the police were able to get to the station. I think they said like in 4 minutes or something. It was pretty quickly. But the real crime there is how none of her fellow Americans, none of her fellow Pennsylvanians, none of her fellow humans cared enough about her to intervene in any way. That's pretty shocking and that's pretty appalling. And it's a commentary to the state of our society right now. The media and our government have ignored and demoralized the general public so much that incidents like this happen. I also think there could be another issue going on there with crime, criminality, police, etc. I watched a video on the ASP channel. What are they? John Korea's channel. Can't remember the name of it, of course. Yesterday, and it showed a video where a mentally disturbed man had been threatening his family with a knife, and so the family had called the police, and the police showed up, and the man with the knife was walking around the street like he came out of the house and he headed right for one of the police officers. So the police officers are backing up and yelling at him, drop the knife, drop the knife. And his family member comes out and kind of changes his trajectory. So then he's heading for another police officer and they're still yelling at him, drop the knife, drop the knife. And I don't know what caused the one police officer to fire on him. I don't know if the man had gotten close enough that the police officer felt threatened, or if it was, a pre-assigned number of times they were going to yell at him, drop the knife, and he didn't, or if the man actually said something. I think his mom or his sister was trying to stop him, and maybe he shoved her, but he was shot and killed. And I thought, this is bad. In America, the way the police and criminal and even mentally ill people interaction has devolved. We are to the point where if you call the police for your mentally disturbed family member, there's a decent chance they're not going to survive the encounter. depending on how they react. And I watched another one very similarly, on in Australia, where at a train station a man walked up with a big knife and stabbed a police officer, not fatally. And there were 3 or 4 police officers on scene, and they did the same thing. They're like, back away from this guy. They're yelling at him, drop the knife. He doesn't drop the knife. And one of the police officers tased him. And then the criminal fell in the train track, and the police went down and like lifted him up and arrested him. And I thought, in America, that guy would have never made it past the first 1 or 2 times that they yelled, drop the knife at him, because in America, they only give you about 30 seconds to make a decision. And after that, if you're armed and threatening people, they're shooting you, which is legal in the States, but it's just, it shows a difference between the two. Anyway, the video's not totally about that. Let me get back to my, my point about the lady on the train. Her situation is also a statement on the war on women in the States. And this war on women is not new. It's been around, for time immemorial. But for a while in America, the illusion that women were going to be considered as, full human beings and be given some consideration by the society, kind of in the late 70s with the Equal Rights Amendment and so on, and abortion rights are all tied up in that issue. Women were getting paid better. Daycare arose, and I don't like it. I don't think women should go to work, but I'm just telling you, I'm commenting on what has happened historically. And then you get movies that project women as leaders, and then, there are women who are leaders right now. We get Beyonce and, just all sorts of Cardi B's and Paris Hilton's who, make millions of dollars for themselves and are considered successful women. And yet when this socialist stuff starts happening and we start seeing rioting and we start seeing a devaluation of personal property and a devaluation of our laws, because the fact that police were not allowed to arrest rioters means somebody is devaluing our laws, because property damage is against the law in the States, and so is violent rioting. Then when you get the whole transgender people have rights, and this whole push to have a minority, tiny little part of a population thrust to the forefront, and legal precedent set that the majority has to respect and give way to these minorities, is a reversal of our democratic republic government. It's not that people don't have individual rights. You absolutely should have individual rights. It's when a minority then is able to dominate a majority. That's when liberalism and socialism are actually taking over, because what happens is the privileged few are going to just completely ignore the rest of the populace, the middle class, the lower class. And it's how things are done in places where, like, someone like Mao Zedong is now in charge of a whole huge nation, and yet he says something like, everybody has to give up your wok. We have to all donate our woks or burn them or whatever he did with them, and now you all deal with the consequences of that. And then there's 5 years of starvation. That's what I'm talking about. One guy being able to dominate and starve an entire country. That's communism. And so we get the devaluation of women. Women are not allowed to compete with other women in sports. When you push the transgender thing and say this man who's still got his junk and has had some female hormones can put on a pair of pink shorts, and you have to play volleyball against him or wrestle against him or something, it's ridiculous. It's just not commonsensical. It's a reversal of just what life should be like. Let me just put it that way. Women should be able to compete against women, and women only, and not enhance women, but just other women. And the same goes for men. The having a bathroom or some transgender person, can walk right in on women who are in there with their little children, like the person in California, the man who walked into the ladies' dressing room and got to start undressing and exposing himself to women. It's just a wrong move in the society. And then we get this poor woman on this train who's suffering the worst humiliation for a woman. Um, to be sexually assaulted is just to attack the essence of what it is to be a woman. And you're helpless. You're helpless. Women against a stronger attacker are helpless, and men are stronger than women. And so she can fight, and if she did fight, God bless her. But she doesn't. That doesn't always mean that she's going to be able to escape or win. Um, and so she's there, and there are enough people in that train car to help her, to rescue her, to stop what's happening to her, to overpower her attacker. Because even if there's two of you and one attacker, two of you can overpower that one guy. And as long as you take him by surprise, it won't even matter if he's armed, because two of you can do it. Three of you, four of you, absolutely, you can do it. And the fact that no one cared enough about her, no one cared enough to risk themselves to help her, is just sad. It's not how American culture is. That's not what American culture is about. We send all sorts of people to natural disaster areas to help find survivors and to help dig bodies out of the rubble. And we send entire teams of people to foreign countries to help with surgery on people and to help build buildings, and church groups send out helpers. And it's just, being an American means you are a helper to your fellow man. And I'm ashamed and appalled at the behavior of these people on this train. And here's the thing. They think they got away with it. Some of them, now this is from the news report, were possibly videoing what was happening to her and possibly uploading that to a social media site. Abominable. That social media site should take that video down if they do. But here's the other thing. The train authority videos all their trains, all their train stations. So these people who cowardly didn't help her and possibly filmed her humiliation and the violence are on film themselves. And the train station, the train authority people are going to review those tapes and press charges against the people who didn't do anything, because that, I think, is a crime in itself. If you see a crime helping, or if you see a crime happening and you have the means to help stop it and you don't, I think you can be criminally charged with something. And I don't know if it's conspiracy or failure to, stop the crime or whatever, but this is, just morally, if you understand what morals are, morals is knowing right from wrong. Morally, if you thought that was happening, you should feel the obligation to try to stop it. You know what I'm saying? If you have a computer on you, if you have a backpack, you can beat the perpetrator with it. There's just no excuse. And to me, it's a sign of the devolving of American culture, the sign of what Biden and Antifa and Bill Gates, and I can't even remember the names of the other contributors to the very liberal causes, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all the politicians who have been enacting these laws. Like Gavin Newsom is about to outlaw lawnmowers in California. You know what I'm saying? This is madness. It is crazy, doesn't make any sense, madness happening in our country. And so there's a reason some of us are saying, I don't want to take part in that. I don't want to take part in that. I don't want to have anything to do with that. I don't agree with that. There's a reason so many people are coming out of the whole society and starting to get independent and starting to just say, you do you, boo. I'm going to do me, boo. And me and you, we don't mix. It's no. And I have one more thought on this, and then I'll end because I know I'm going long. But I really wanted to get, you know, this opinion out. Um, some people say it's the end of the age. Some people say it's the end of the world. Some people say, you know, it's the end times. It's the revelation. It's um, all sorts of things going on. Here's a deep thought for y'all. We're a very, very young society. We're 250 some years old. Lots of other societies, lots of other countries are so much older than we are. China is one, Italy is one, England is one. Um, Middle Eastern companies like Syria and Arabia been around forever. The peoples have been around and the cultures have been around forever, for thousands of years, and are well established. But their governments took big turns too, took big fluctuations, had kings and queens and royalty and overthrows and restarts and burned to the ground and influxes of new people and so on. Um, we could be in one of those times. Just as such a very, very young nation, we could be having that kind of upheaval. And it may not be the end of the world and the end of days and you know, end of whatever, but it certainly could be the end of the society as we knew it, with a possibly, and so I guess people call it the Great Reset, um, with possibly a brand new society emerging that looks different than the one before. Uh, but there is also the possibility that this society does change back, because that happens when these governmental changes happen. Sometimes it's very extreme on one way, and sometimes it's very extreme on another, and sometimes it's a step back, and sometimes it's a step forward. And so just think about that yourself, and look for what that could possibly mean for us as a country. You know, what did China look like when it was 250 years old? What did Greece look like when it was 250 years old? What did France look like when it was 250 years old? Because that may also give you ideas about what could possibly be some of the next steps. And I said that was the last thought, but I have one more thought that relates, and that is my video on how a pandemic changed society. And I'll try to remember to put a link in the description down there. Pandemics do change things. And so that could also be a way to look for what possibly could be coming next. And I think in America, after our pandemic in 1918, we had the Roaring Twenties, which is a completely opposite and different way for the world, our world, to run. And then a depression, which brought everyone down to like a base level and having to start from scratch, and then a world war. So who knows what could be around the corner, folks. All right, thanks for listening. Bless you all. Congrats to the Prepared Homestead, and congrats to all you people who are prepping, because you are taking responsibility for yourselves. All right, bless you. Shalom.